hood champion boxing is sports. And boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. So listen, there's a lot going on right now in women's boxing. And my thing is, I'm glad to see that the women are actually making noise. The women are actually getting paid. Hold on one second, let me fix this. The women are getting paid what they deserve. But when it comes to these two very intriguing matchups, Taylor Serrano, Shields Marshall, a lot of people are picking the puncher in both of these matches to win the fight. A lot of people are picking the puncher. And even some of the ex-female boxers who, when they're speaking of Shields, Savannah Marshall, Serrano, and Taylor, they speak very, very highly of them. They really do. But they keep coming back to the puncher and feeling that the puncher is the one in both of these fights who are going to end up victorious. So that's what I want to talk about. So when we first, let's just start with Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano, okay? Katie Taylor is an outstanding boxer, and she's been recognized for that. Phenomenal natural abilities. But she's going up against somebody who hasn't lost in a very long time in Amanda Serrano. And a lot of people are looking at Katie Taylor as someone who likes to come forward and bring the fight to her opponents. I recently did a video about that, and it's true. That is Katie Taylor. She doesn't really like moving backwards. But experts like Layla Ali, Ann Wolf, Christy Martin, they're saying that that style of Katie Taylor coming forward, being on that front foot, is going to play right into Amanda Serrano's game plan and into her style, and it's going to play into her power, which they feel is the advantage that she has. In addition, they say it's not just the power that Serrano possesses, it's the fact that she has an extremely high boxing IQ with solid foundational boxing skills as well. They think for that reason, Katie Taylor is going to find herself in trouble. She's not going to be in there with someone who she can press, let her hands go, because Katie Taylor has super fast hands, great combinations. They said, but Amanda Serrano is going to be able to nullify a lot of that with her own speed, with her defense, with her boxing ability, with her agility, but then also her ability to fight going backwards and have those heavy hands to where it's going to make Katie Taylor at some point think twice about coming in. Because what we have seen with Katie Taylor is Katie Taylor has not looked good when she's mixing it up in a dogfight, which Katie Taylor has a tendency to be drawn into. It does not play to her advantage unless around the middle of the rounds her opponents start to tire. Now, there are times where Katie Taylor will let her hands go early in the fight because she's fresh. And if she catches her opponents off guard and they're not prepared for the Katie Taylor onslaught, they can end up in bad shape. This is not what's going to happen with Savannah Marshall. Many are predicting. The story is they feel that Savannah Marshall is the one, not Savannah Marshall, Amanda Serrano is the one who's going to not only hurt Katie Taylor, but possibly even knock her out. Many people are saying that they're super excited for the fight and that they're a fan of Katie Taylor, because if you didn't know, Katie Taylor was in the Olympics. They talk about her superior skill, and they say her skill level isn't just superior because she's a woman. They're just in general, she has superior skill as a boxer. Another reason so many people love Katie Taylor is because of her character. Out of all four of these women, Serrano, Taylor, Shields, and Marshall, the consensus is, when we're talking strictly character, people feel Katie Taylor has the best character out of all four. They didn't say the other ones had bad characters, but if they ranked them for some reason, this is just a consensus. Katie Taylor, her character ranked top, then Savannah Marshall, then Serrano, then Shields. I have an idea why it's like that because I think Shields is more vocal than the rest of them, and some people just don't like that. But it is what it is. So with Katie Taylor and people liking her character and what she brought to the table as far as the Olympics, they're saying that it's great to see her and Serrano headlining Madison Square Garden, but they said they just feel that Serrano is used to winning, used to dominating. Katie Taylor's used to winning and dominating, but not with power and KOs. And they feel that's what Serrano's used to. She knows at any point in the fight, if she catches you with the right punch, she's gonna hurt her opponent and get her out of there. And Serrano has carried her power up through the various weight classes that she's traveled through and she's won championships at. So being able to change one fight with one shot makes it really exciting. So the majority are siding with Serrano to win the fight. And when it comes to style matchups, they don't really feel that either one is, they feel both of them are very slick. They don't feel one is more slick than the other, but if they had to give the edge to someone being a more slick boxer, they would give it to Katie Taylor. They think that they both have solid defense, they're well-rounded, but the person who's able to keep people off them with their power is Serrano. And they feel like that is going to be a huge factor in this fight. She's going to be able to keep Katie Taylor off her with that power. And it's just a matter of her thinking to herself, they're talking about Serrano, is just wait till I drop that big shot. If she can get that shot off on Katie Taylor, the fight changes. Katie Taylor's confidence drastically reduces, and you're going to see the momentum shift with Serrano pressing forward and potentially getting Katie Taylor out of there. But we know Serrano has the power. They both have boxing ability. Serrano can mix it up, and it's just going to boil down to who can take the punch. And I think Serrano stands a better chance to take Katie Taylor's punch than Katie Taylor stands a chance of taking Serrano's punch, because that's extremely dangerous for Katie Taylor to stand in there and try to take the punch of the power of Amanda Serrano. But Katie Taylor is extremely talented, and we'll just have to see what happens. But her standing there trying to duke it out with Amanda Serrano is just a huge foul. Even Layla Ali talked about if she was going to get into a fight. I was reading an article on that. If she was talking about had she got into a fight with Ann Wolfe, she would have had to be very careful because Layla Ali was more of a boxer puncher. Ann Wolfe, if you guys don't know who Ann Wolfe is, just go to YouTube and type in Ann Wolfe vicious knockout. And look at that overhand right that she threw and knocked out that tall opponent, and it looked like her leg broke. But look at that. And then you'll understand why Ann Wolfe, when she's talked about, she's what's always mentioned with Ann Wolfe is power. Not just for a woman, just Ann Wolfe had the power to knock out men. That's how hard she hit. But Layla Ali was talking about that, saying that had she fought Ann Wolfe, she would have had to be on her A game. Would have been a lot of boxing, sticking and moving, and then getting her shots off to try to keep Ann Wolfe off, because Layla Ali, she had a lot of power too, and she's known for her knockouts. And that is why Layla Ali, when you hear her talk about the Serranos, the Taylors, the Shields, the Marshalls, she always tends to side with the opponent who has the knockout power. So when you look at Taylor and Serrano, both of them can box, but one has devastating power. The other one just has more like blinding speed. So when you think about what's going on with what's her name, Claressa Shields and Savannah Marshall. Now Savannah Marshall is a huge fan favorite. Huge fan favorite. She's already beaten Claressa Shields once, in the amateurs. But Claressa Shields, she has a point. She was a child, which is true. She was a child when she fought Savannah Marshall, but still, it doesn't matter. Because if she would have beat her, she wouldn't be talking about, hey, I was just a kid. She would just, it wouldn't even be an issue. So I think that's what Shields has to kind of buy into for herself is, I lost that fight because I was just a kid. I'm a grown woman now, and things are going to be different. But when you talk about Savannah Marshall, a lot of people aren't surprised that she beat Claressa Shields in the amateurs, and many people feel Savannah Marshall is going to beat Shields when they fight this summer. They are. They look at her height, they look at her being relaxed in the ring, and they look at her level of comfort. Now, Shields isn't as big as Marshall, probably not as strong, and this is the problem. See, Claressa Shields went and fought in the MMA. So what she did is, and my dad used to always tell me, don't slap box, don't wrestle, because then guys learn your strengths, they learn your weaknesses, and you don't want to get exposed like that. So you never go out there and wrestle, you never go slap box and play all those, he used to say, stupid games, because then now people kind of know how to deal with you if in fact you find yourself in a fight. So when you think about Claressa Shields going over to MMA, she kind of told on herself a bit as far as not having super strong legs and superior upper body strength. Now, she did show that she was extremely brave and that she was coachable and that she deserves a lot of respect just as a fighter, not just a boxer, but as an overall fighter. But she kind of showed to some other female fighters that, you know what, if I get in the ring and I impose my physicalities, Claressa Shields isn't going to be able to out-wrestle me, out-toss with me, and that's going to play to my advantage. And I tend to agree with that. I think Claressa Shields going over to MMA, like I said, was brave. She got a lot of respect, but it kind of showed some of the weaknesses that she did possess as far as overall physical strength. But the other thing that a lot of people are looking at is how vocal Shields is and how quiet Savannah is. They have a saying that the loudest one in the room is the weakest one. And I'll say this, right? Claressa Shields is very confident. She's very vocal, but she has the speed, she has the pedigree, she has the accolades, and she has the talent, and she has the heart and ability to back it up. Why shouldn't she speak highly of herself? No one's gonna love you like you love yourself, right? And I just think, although she's mouthy and she's confident, sometimes people like that will get the label as you kind of on the edge, have an attitude, or cocky. But depending on who's speaking like that about themselves, conversely, the individual can often be seen as good for the company, a real pit bull, someone who's a real go-getter. So there's different adjectives that are used to describe two different people, but who speak in the same manner about themselves. But one will be seen in a positive manner, one will be seen in a negative light. But it is what it is, because people are always going to have an opinion. But when it comes to Claressa Shields, I think going into this fight, a lot of people are feeling that her mouthiness has helped to intimidate other fighters. And with Savannah Marshall, they feel like that loud mouth of Claressa Shields is not going to at all rattle the confidence of the silent assassin, Savannah Marshall. Because they talk about her, they describe her really more as like a, how can I say it, like a, Serrano has Well, I put it, Shields has a loud confidence. Serrano has a quiet confidence. And they say those quiet ones are the killers. And that's why they're picking Savannah Marshall to not just beat Claressa Shields, they're picking her to viciously knock her out because they feel like Claressa Shields' mouth isn't helping her to gain an advantage in this fight because Savannah Marshall knows what she can do. But let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. You know, you never know. Maybe when the initial fight gets announced and they start having the press conferences, maybe Savannah Marshall doesn't get shaken up, but maybe somewhere in the process, maybe you can see a little visible that she's a bit distraught, or maybe you see that Claressa Shields becomes a bit distraught. Maybe we'll see a kink in someone's armor. But right now, the majority is giving Savannah Marshall the edge when it comes to everything. They just don't think she can be intimidated. They don't think that she can be bullied. And they definitely think that just because she's quiet doesn't mean that she won't speak up for herself. And I tend to agree with that. And a friend of mine was joking. He was describing Claressa Shields as Jermell Charlo and Savannah Marshall as David Benavidez. And they were alluding to the fact that the past weekend, well, at the Spence fight, Jermell Charlo was out there, running his mouth and talking a lot of trash to David Benavidez' father. But then David Benavidez walked over there and shoved him. And Jermell, once he got behind the security, started to make a whole bunch of noise. But he didn't shove him back. He didn't stand. He didn't hold his ground. He kind of scurried away, then started to pop off again. And that's kind of what a buddy of mine was, kind of drawing similarities to between Benavidez and Marshall and Jermell Charlo and Claressa Shields. But back on Shields and Marshall, I don't think Shields has the kind of power to keep Savannah off her. I mean, Shields and Katie Taylor have speed. Serrano and Marshall have power. And Shields is definitely going to need the speed and her ability to try to avenge that loss that she had against Marshall. But I just don't think that's going to be enough. Katie Taylor's going to need that speed and boxing ability to make it complicated for Serrano. But once she gets hit, which she's going to get hit, I think you're going to see the temperature of that fight change big time. So it really depends on if Shields is just going to go running in there, if Katie Taylor is going to go running in there and just trying to let their hands go, then all of a sudden, boom, they get the big right hand dropped on them or the big left hook dropped on them. And, we've seen it happen before in fights. And with these boxers, we've seen Katie Taylor get hit, get hurt, and come back and fight strong. We've seen her take a rematch against someone who she really lost against, but she gave her a rematch and then, dominate. With Shields, we've seen her get dropped in a boxing match and come back and win the fight. So, again, Shields, I don't think is physically strong, but mentally she's strong and she's got the heart. But, if she wants to keep that spot, as far as the GOAT, self-proclaimed GOAT, she's definitely going to have to be very careful in there with Savannah Marshall, because Savannah Marshall can take your head off with either hand, any shot. But, overall, it seems like people are just excited with these two fights. I mean, they're fighting for undisputed distinction as well. That's huge. It's commendable for these women to get in the ring and have these kind of opportunities. Even Jake Paul is in the mix. And a lot of women, even Claressa Shields, spoke very negatively of him. But you look at what he's doing for female boxing, now she has positive things to say. And that's why you just can't be so quick to judge a book by its cover. Yeah, Jake Paul's a little bit corny. Yeah, he's a YouTuber. Maybe some feel he's not really a boxer. But hell, he has a boxing license. He's putting on gloves. He's a boxer. He's better than a lot of these tomato cans we've seen on TV. So give him credit. Also, he's using his profile, the platform, to help. Seems like he'll help anyone he possibly can. So I think it's only right for Claressa Shields to come out and start to kind of big him up and speak positively about him. But I think it'd be good if she come out and kind of apologize too for ripping into him, saying she would knock him out. Because one thing I'll tell you right now, she's not knocking out Jake Paul. Jake Paul will probably kill her if he hit her with that right hand. So Jake Paul damn near killing men with that right hand. Say what you want about him, Shields doesn't want to get in there and mess with that crazy YouTuber. But we'll see how the fights play out. But one thing that's really huge for Katie Taylor, Serrano, Shields, and Marshall is they're seizing the moment to get some really, really nice paydays. Serrano and Taylor, we know right now, both of them are going to make $1 million plus. When it comes to Shields and Marshall, not quite sure. I know Shields signed a 2-fight deal with, I think, Sky Sports, where she's making over $1 million for 2 fights. She already had 1 fight. This will be the second one. So let's say essentially she's been getting $500,000 purses. Katie Taylor made in her last, not Katie Taylor, Savannah Marshall in her last fight made $350,000. Her fight before that, I think she made $25,000. So not sure what the purses are going to be for Shields and Marshall, but I know Shields is at a minimum getting $500,000 just because of her contract with Sky Sports. And they're both going to be on pay-per-view. Both of these fights are going to be pay-per-view fights. And Marshall, if she got paid $350 her last fight, I can't see her getting any less than $500,000 for this fight against Shields. Wouldn't be surprised if both of these ladies raked in over $1 million each with pay-per-view sales. So that's huge as well. So these women and their teams, not just them, but their teams, are taking women's boxing to unthinkable heights. And we need to be excited. But if women's boxing is going to continue to bubble the way these 2 matches are helping it to kind of bubble and percolate, there's going to have to be more women getting involved with boxing, more women, with the mouth like Shields, with the power like Serrano and Marshall, with the Olympic accomplishments, accolades, and boxing ability like Taylor and Shields as well. There has to be someone who helps to bring attention to women's boxing, to the sports, and to help to expand their fan base. Like that is something that has to happen. If not, the women are always going to struggle because look, you can't expect these women to ever make $5-10 million in a fight unless they got people who want to buy pay-per-view. Unless they have people who want to come to the stadium and watch them fight. Can any female boxer put 40,000, let's say 20,000 seats in a stadium, 40,000 seats in a stadium, 50, 60,000 seats in a stadium? I don't know. But right now, unless they can do that, it's just a dream to think they're going to make the kind of money that some of these other fighters are making. But through endorsement deals and everything else, they can make a whole lot of money outside of boxing. But when it comes to just boxing by itself, I really hope we can see the $3, $4, $5, $10 million paydays for these ladies. Not just them, but all ladies. But again, I understand they got to do their part. They got to make it easy on their team by, self-promoting, marketing themselves. But they just got to find their niche, find what works without selling sex. You know what I mean? When I say selling sex, I don't mean prostitute. I mean having to show their body and like Shields went and did the Sports Illustrated cover and she's there and her butt is out and all that. And I just didn't think that was necessary. Some people say that it's beautiful. I just didn't think that was necessary for her. And that's what I mean by selling sex. Like, why does she have to get damn near butt naked for people to acknowledge her and to want to recognize what her accomplishments like? That's not what to me should be. They should feel like it's obligated to do. Respect them as athletes, as athletes, and just as professionals. And let's not play on the whole sex thing. As far as style of dress, they want to dress like a lady and be cute and be pretty and feel nice. That's cool, but we don't need to see them with the bodies exposed and scantily clad. Like that's just not what I think it should take for them to get paid the way men get paid in boxing. I think it's all about raising women's boxing's popularity, and I think the women will benefit as well financially if that can happen. But as long as you have guys like Eddie Hearn, Jake Paul now, the Al Haymans, and anyone else out there who's promoting women's boxing, that will definitely get it going in the right direction. So when it comes to Savannah Marshall, though, if you ask me, in my opinion, something about that Savannah Marshall and that little kind of creepy grin and that eerie silence, I just think she's going to steal the show. Because when it comes to Serrano and Taylor, that's an exciting fight, just with all of Serrano's accomplishments, all of Taylor's accomplishments, how many titles each of them hold, and just what they're fighting for at Madison Square Garden and the payday. So it's a moment in time right there. And that's huge, don't get me wrong. But I think because Claressa Shields is probably the most popular out of all four. She's probably the most popular and the most vocal. And I think if anyone profile is going to just shoot beyond the moon and stars, it's going to be Savannah Marshall if she knocks Claressa Shields out. And I say out cold, which I think is going to be, I think she has a chance to do it, because I just don't think Shields is going to have the power to keep Marshall off of her and to discourage Marshall. And I think Shields is going to get caught up, and she's going to get caught up in her ability to land shots and get, I think, overconfident, and that is going to be to her detriment. Now, I don't want to see that, because I'm for several reasons, right? But the one is, I know what Shields does for a lot of young ladies who, and not just minorities, just all ladies. All four of these women do this for a lot of young ladies, but for Shields, and being from Flint, Michigan, and you just don't see a lot of women who go to the Olympics and get 2 gold medals, man. And to come out here, and she's actually fighting for all 4 of these women. Talk about women, equal pay. She's even, her going over to MMA, it had a lot to do with her, but it had a lot to do with just as a woman, and for people to treat women with respect, and for people to see them as athletes and fighters and not just sexual objects. So everyone benefits from Shields. So when I say I don't want to see her lose, it's because she's fighting for all of them. But there's got to be a winner, there's got to be a loser. But, Savannah Marshall has, all 4 of them have people who look up to them, and they're representing women, and to me, in a very great way. There are going to be opinions on who's more dignified than the others, but that's cool. We all may share different status in life, but we all share the same dignity. And it's going to be opinionated on who they think is the most dignified. But I just have a feeling and I think Marshall is going to knock out Shields. I do think she's going to knock out Shields if Shields can't box, be smart, be disciplined. But if she does knock Shields out, I think Savannah Marshall is an excellent candidate to go out there and speak on behalf of women's boxing, and to help raise the popularity and get the right kind of attention on female boxing. I think Shields would be a good candidate too. I just think she's going to lose. I think Taylor would be a great candidate. I think Amanda Serrano would be a great candidate. But I like the majority. I'm going to side with the puncher. And Serrano is the puncher. I'm picking her. I keep saying damn Katie Taylor, but Savannah Marshall is the puncher. I'm picking her. So leave your comments below. Let me know your thoughts, your opinions. We're going to see. The thing about these 4 women, they don't really have a large marketing team behind them. They know none of that. and there are a lot of male fighters that don't either. And it takes a lot to make like a star, and not everybody's going to be able to be a star, and that's just how it is. But I think this is the first step in the right direction for us to start seeing more and more women as stars, more popular, and definitely, you know, women's faces at the forefront of boxing. And I think it's about time, and I'm glad to see it's happening. So that being said, like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Appreciate your support. Shout out to all the veterans. My pick, Amanda Serrano against Taylor, and Savannah Marshall against Shields. Let me know what you feel in the comments below. I'm in the breeze.